What's going on, everyone? This is Docs Outside the Box. Welcome back. I'm your host, Dr. Nii. I'm also joined by my wonderful, lovely co-host,
Dr. Renee.
You're getting better at the singing. I'll accept it this time.
Really?
Time.
I made it short just for you.
Good. Keep it short. The shorter, the better, all right? But listen, this is the third time we are recording this episode, y'all. We had a bunch of malfunction snafus the first time we recorded. The issue was Zoom, which makes no sense to me. I don't know why there's an option where you could just record the person who is talking and nobody else. I don't like that option. So we got through the entire episode and then I'm like, wait, I'm not talking. I'm not seen anywhere in the video. So long story short, we are re-recording this for the third time. So third time's a charm, babe.
Yeah, it is. Let's get this party started.
Good. So you ready to pod? So listen, everyone, we got a really good episode today. We're going to dive deep into some things that, we don't really talk about as we try to get into and become a physician, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about some reviews first, which we always appreciate. Then we're going to jump into a famous YouTuber who's also a doctor quitting YouTube. We're also going to get into why people choose to go into medicine versus, maybe why they shouldn't. And then we will get into the sign out. There it is. So anything else you want to add before we jump into this, Dr. Renee?
Now let's get into it. Third time's a charm.
You want to get into it? Third time's a charm. Real quick, though, YouTube is the devil. YouTube's algorithms are really messed up, yo. So for real. So, me, I watch everything from tech to rap to, whatever it is, whatever's the latest news and so forth. So on my algorithm, there's SchoolBoy Q, right? Famous rapper from the West Coast back like 8 years ago. I can't believe it's been 8 years. Damn. But 8 years ago, he did this collabo with Kendrick Lamar called Collard Green, which is an amazing song. Collard Greens. It's an amazing song. And I guess because I've been looking at a lot of Kendrick Lamar stuff because he's supposed to be coming out with an album. So it's a lot of videos that are just like, okay, this is what the album's going to sound like. This is when it's coming out. So I think that's why it showed up on my timeline. But when I finished that, then all of a sudden, Bill Burr's Saturday Night Live monologue came on, which was really good. And then I finished that. And then it was the next suggestion was Dave Chappelle. Mm-hmm. His Saturday Night Live monologue, the most recent one, which was okay, not bad. And then all of a sudden it suggested Chris Rock's monologue from the Emmys, or from the Oscars that he hosted back in 2016. And I watched it and I was like, man, like his presence, his comedy skills, when I compare it to Dave Chappelle, Dave Chappelle is overrated, I think. And I just think Chris Rock I just think he's a better comedian. I just like his stand-up skills better than Dave Chappelle. I'll just put it there. Yeah, I think it's better.
Here go your downloads. Going down.
Listen, if you guys disagree with me or if you agree with me, listen, you can text us and let us know what you think. You can text us at 1-833-230-2860. Look, we sound like a radio show now. Right. So if you disagree with my take on comedy, particularly between Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, and there's no beef going on between them, and I don't think there's a comparison. But if you had
gonna start the beef. We gonna start the beef.
We gonna start beef. But if you had to choose, who would you choose, guys? Me, I would choose Chris Rock any day. I don't think there's any form of comedy or any category that Dave Chappelle could even touch Chris Rock. But I'll let you speak on that.
Yeah, no, I see. No, I mean, so that you and I have talked about this countless times. And what I've said to you is that I think that Dave Chappelle stopped telling jokes years ago, right? So in comparison to Dave Chappelle, even 20, 30 years ago, Dave Chappelle isn't the same comedian that he was, that he is now. Like, right?
I wasn't even feeling Dave Chappelle even on the Def Comedy Jam days.
I know, but he was a different, he had a different style of comedy. Right now, I would say that I would actually honestly say that I don't really see Dave Chappelle in his current form as, someone who tells jokes, right? I don't think he's in the business of telling jokes anymore. I think he makes commentary and he points out the irony. He points out, things that are kind of like, this is my take on it, and it may or may not be popular, but here's some humor that I find in it, and I'm going to share that with my audience, right? I think that's where Dave Chappelle is at this point. I don't think that he tells jokes. I think he comments on topics.
Well, I
So
think
yeah.
I think the issue with him too, which makes a lot of sense with what you're talking about, with him being more on social commentary. It's like, well, the further away you get from jokes and you start
Mhm.
making comments on social things that are going on, then you're going to be treated like someone who does stuff on
Is
social
like,
commentary, which means
yeah.
that people aren't going to look at it as jokes. People are going to say, hey, look, I found that to be hurtful, or I don't agree with that, your take on X, Y, and Z. And I feel like sometimes he's like, but this is comedy. And it's like, nah, dude, like you're not telling jokes anymore. Like you're stepping into serious matters, which is fine, right? Comedians in the past, I was going to say jokers. Comedians in the past have done that, but they've done it in a very comedic, clever way. I don't think he's doing it. I think now he's just making commentary, which is fine. It's his prerogative, but it's also the prerogative of people now to be like, okay, well, now you're not joking anymore, and now you're weighing in, and we're going to give our opinion whether we like it or not. So
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I think he's gotten away from telling jokes. I don't think Dave Chappelle is, in this current form, I don't think that he's a comedian. So in that respect, I'm just kind of like, I just don't see the comedy in Dave Chappelle anymore, the way that I used to, right? I used to
Well,
actually
Chris,
like Dave Chappelle in college, but now I'm kind of like, as a comedian anyway, I don't necessarily think like, oh, Dave Chappelle's funny, I should go and see his concert. Like I would never go see Dave Chappelle perform, right?
ooh, what
I
do y'all
wouldn't.
think, y'all?
Here go the
833-230
downloads again.
2860 1-833-230-2860. Yo, Alfred, put that on the screen, put on our YouTube video. All right.
Going
If
down,
if you
downloads.
guys agree with what our take is, go ahead and put that down. I agree with you. I would not pay to see Dave Chappelle. I don't think his comedy is that good. I think Chris Rock makes me laugh. Chris Rock makes me think. I think he has a good balance of wit, and he makes me like want to bust the gut laughing. So I'll leave it at that. Let's leave it at that, and then we'll just move on. But listen, everybody, text us. The stuff is in the show notes where you can text us. But once again, it's 833-230-2860. Let us know what you think. Let us know if we're off base. Let us know we're right. And ultimately, you're still not going to change my mind. Chris Rock is better than Dave Chappelle.
You need a growth mindset. Okay.
Right. All right, y'all. Let's jump into reviews. All right. We got a great review we're going to go over today. We got 5 stars, and it is titled Exceptional and Inspiring. It comes from Dr. Derek Barnes. 5 stars. And it says, Dr. Nii is the best podcaster out there.
No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that.
All right, let me tell you. It says Dr. Nii and Dr. Renee have become the dynamic duo of podcasting. Their real world experience and knowledge is always right on time. I enjoy the rawness of their podcast. I've never heard that, the rawness. That's pretty cool. And have been following from the very beginning. And this podcast has developed into my all-time top source to hear what is going on in the world of doctors doing extraordinary things. I thought he was going to say like top source to hear anything, but I'll take that.
Really? Because I ain't talking about world peace. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, I'm just saying, Dr. Derek Barnes, get it together. Thank you for answering my question in near real time on air. I am honored and thankful that you took the time to do so. Keep up the great work. I look forward to what's ahead for the show. If there were 10 stars to give, you've got my vote. Happy New Year. That is what I'm talking about.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about, man. Dr. Derek Barnes, thank you. So listen, Dr. Derek, about 3 or 4 episodes ago, he wrote to us asking, what he should do with negotiations with a hospital, and he's OB. And we went through it, answered it. The most important thing is, I think as a locums, as an independent contractor, and even as a doctor in general, you just got to look at yourself as an entity. You have to look at yourself as a corporation, just like you would consult, or not a consult, but just like you would call a plumber, or you would call someone else to come to your house and do certain work. And then you pay them, and then they give you a receipt. It's the same thing. And I think that offers a lot of control for doctors. I think that it is an opportunity for people to have a little balance on being a great clinician and also business world. So I don't know, Dr. Derek, I hope it worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for suiting that out. And for everyone, listen, we really appreciate the reviews. They always act as social proof, right? So what I mean by that is someone is looking to listen to our podcast and they discover our podcast. The number one thing they're going to do is look at the reviews. Just like you go to Amazon.com and you look at the reviews of a product before you buy, it's the same thing. When they look at the reviews, they're going to determine, should they listen to this? And the way how the algorithms work, the more reviews we have, the more people who download, the more we're out here and the more I'm going to be putting out episodes. So listen, I appreciate everyone who does it. And if you really like this episode, at the end, go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know what you think. All right.
Yeah.
So listen, before we jump into quitting medicine, I kind of want to lead some things up. Let's lead some things up. So for me, or actually, let me ask you, right? So you went to medical school at the age of 27, correct?
Yep.
So you were a lot more mature when you entered into medical school. And I have to assume that you are a little bit more mature with the decision-making with going to medical school. So basically what I'm asking is, did you do like a risk-benefit analysis? Like, did you take out a piece of paper and put a line in the middle and say the pros of going to med school, the cons of going to medical school? How did you decide that med school finally is the thing that you need to do? It's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I specifically put out a pros and cons list. I don't think I did that for myself, but I think the closest that I came to that was that at one point I had a decision to make. Do I continue with the job that I was in, or do I leave that job and go on to my post-bac program, which would then lead me to medical school? And so at the time I was working at a food lab, right? Microbiology food lab, food recalls and stuff like that. And I had been working there only 3
Sounds exciting.
months. Yeah, it was very exciting. So very exciting.
Testing for E. coli and stuff.
Basically.
Can you say testing for E. coli and shit? Like, is that redundant?
That is redundant. So, but I had only been there like 3 months, and I literally was at my 3-month review when my supervisor, said to me, hey, my supervisor was Bob, Supervisor Bob. So Supervisor Bob said to me that he really liked my work, and actually microbiology was a strong suit of mine. So he really liked that. The way that I worked, the way that I even trained people, because there were people who came like a month after me and then they asked me to train them and stuff like that. Well, they were getting ready to open up a pharmacy department in this lab. And he said, he'd really like for me to be a part of, that pharmacy team or whatever. So he was essentially promoting me and then giving me a raise. And I was like, Supervisor Bob, I quit.
Not going to be able to do it.
Not going to be able to do it.
Not going to be able to do it.
Because, part of it was, the closest that I came to making a risk versus benefit was actually looking at my colleagues who were working at the lab, right? Because their dream was not to work at a food lab, right? Mm-hmm. Yet here they were, and they were there years before I was. And I just saw myself like, I don't know, I saw myself in them if I decided to go down a certain path. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be here 5 years later, just kind of like, well, they're going to give me a raise and a promotion, so therefore I should stay. Like, that was not what I wanted. So I quit literally during my performance review. I gave my 2 weeks notice.
E. coli.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. So you just knew. So for you, was there any cons that you considered for medical school at all?
I did think about the debt, but it wasn't, I don't think I thought about it enough to be like, oh, I don't want to do it. I just kind of thought about it like, yeah, I'll be in debt, but I'll be able to pay it off.
So when you tell the story of you quitting your job at your promotion, it basically was like an opportunity cost. Like, do I take this job, which is very secure, or do I go after what my lifetime dream is?
Exactly.
And you decided to go towards your lifetime dream.
Towards my lifetime dream. Yeah.
That makes sense. Real quick, what did he say when you said, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it?
I'll never forget his face. He was like, what? I was like, yeah.
But you get free donuts. You get access to the water cooler.
Actually, we did get a lot of free food from that job. We got a lot of free food, a lot of shrimp from that job. But no, he was shocked. And he was like, what? Like, why? And I said, well, because I want to go to medical school and I need to go back to school and take some courses. And, unfortunately, this job is not going to allow me to do that, just kind of based on the distance and the hours that I have to work. It's not convenient for me. So he was just like, okay. And then that was it. That was it.
Okay.
So,
and then how many you gave like 2 weeks notice and you're out?
Yeah, I gave 2 weeks notice. I worked another 2 weeks. And then I left. I had to weigh whether or not I was taking a huge risk, right? Because you got to remember, I went to college. I didn't really do all that well in college. I obviously didn't do well enough to get into medical school at that point in time. So embarking on a post-bac and not knowing how I was going to do that was a big risk, right? Because I could have sucked at the post-bac, and next I don't end up in medical school, and I'm like, dang it, why didn't I keep this job?
Bob,
Damn, Bob. Damn it, Bob.
Can I get a job, man, please?
Yeah,
man?
basically. So, I guess in that sense, I just had to know that this is what I really wanted to do, and I was just going to go after it. So, that's
here you are now.
As much as I did. Yeah.
Here you are now. There you go. So that's what's up. Well, look, my reason for going into medical school, I did not do a risk benefit analysis. And I'll just be honest with you, there was no con that you could have told me at that point. Like, this is like 16, 17. There's no con at that point that would have said, yeah, like, you should not go into medical school. The only thing that was going to stop me was my inability to not get in, which, there's something to be said about having a single-mindedness of purpose, being so focused, like, I'm going to make this happen. But the reasons that I wanted to be a doctor was I found it challenging. I just, you look at all these different things that you can do. But for me, I was like, man, like the concept of understanding how the human body works, trying to get into medical school. And then you throw into that, like in the 80s, there was just a whole bunch of, remember all those TV shows that were with medicine and, in a hospital with, was it St. Elsewhere with Denzel Washington? There was, Doogie Howser, there was the Cosby Show. There was all these different things that were out there.
Right.
And there's like, there's a certain sense of social prestige that goes with it. And then also at the same time, nobody in my family was in healthcare at all. Later on, my mother was a nursing assistant, but that's as far as it was. Right. So for me, this was a way for me to stand out. And at the time when I didn't know anybody who was a physician at the time, like money and pay, they just seemed comfortable, or like they just seemed very well.
Or wealthy.
Like they seemed wealthy. So that's why I decided that I wanted to do that. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I don't know if that's enough really to say that should be the reason why you go into medical school. I'm just saying that was my thing. I'm not casting any judgment on anybody, but I don't know if that's completely the wisest reason for me to go in. Right. And like I said, like, you are making a decision at the age of 16, and then you realize it at the age of 31, right? Maybe 32. Right. So if you allow yourself to make those decisions, we're talking about the average age of starting in medical school is 24. And then by the time you graduate, it's 28. Then if you do on average 3 years of residency, it's 31. Right. So a decision that you made at the age of 16 is now showing earlier is now showing its fruition at the age of 31, 32, 33, 34, depending on how it is. I think that's interesting. It's really crazy. I don't think we see that really in any other part of just
any other
working.
industry. Yeah, you do. I think you see it in law.
You think so?
Yeah, I think you do. I think you see that in law, right? I mean, going to 4 years of college and then 3 years of law school, you might do some sort of internship or junior, partnership or whatever it is. And then you don't really, really get into that career until maybe, I don't know, a few years after you graduate.
Yeah, that you might be right about that. You might be right about that. Okay, so being a lawyer also.
Yeah, it's similar.
The reason I'm bringing that up is because about a month ago, and this is going to segue into our next thing. A month ago, a really popular YouTuber, and his channel is mainly on productivity, how to be more productive, how to balance, how to make really good YouTube videos. He's also a doctor. He's actually a junior doctor, which in the UK is the equivalent of a resident, and he's in emergency medicine. And he is, I don't know what range or what level he is as a junior doctor, but he put out a video saying that
you forgot to say his name.
Oh yeah, Dr. Ali Abdaal, right? Dr. Ali Abdaal. He's been making videos for several years now,
Yeah.
and on the topics that I talked about. But the way how he started was I guess he always found, the academic part of medicine challenging, but also something that he could teach to other people. So he started a business where
Mm-hmm.
he was teaching people how to get into medical school, as well as how to do really well in your studies in medical school. And he created a really lucrative business. And
Right.
then he had plans actually to come to the United States, take the USMLE, and then practice in the United States. And then what happened is his YouTube videos took off. And then he was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, do I really need to go to the United States? And I know how crazy it is in the United States with residency. Maybe I'll just stay and practice part-time as a junior doctor and then work on my business. So he's doing both things. Like, he's building his empire as a great YouTuber, a great businessman, a great entrepreneur, and then also obviously still working towards finishing his, his studies, or his
Training.
what am I trying? His training as an
Yeah.
ER physician. Thanks for helping me out. So he created this video that I thought was very well thought out. I thought was very, I applaud him for this. And he goes through the different reasons why he's deciding to quit medicine. And he starts off by talking about what is the purpose of work, right? And he puts it into many columns underneath that. So what is the purpose of work? Purpose of work is to make money, to have fun, helping people. There's a certain purpose, meaning that you get from that, as well as there's a social status that comes with that. So before we jump into other things, let's kind of focus on each one, right? So if we go into what is the purpose of work, he says that ultimately, I think a lot of people have researched this, and he quotes this one author who really gives the greatest breakdown of what the purpose of work is, and that's to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason we all go to work is to make money, right? Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
we would be doing all of these different hobbies and all of these different altruistic type things. But the reason we officially go to work is to bring home income. And if he brought it down to the basic point of making money, he says that he makes more money doing YouTube as well as his other businesses
Right.
than working as a junior doctor. So I went and I looked online, and I looked at the average pay of a actual working ER doctor in the UK, and that's anywhere between 66,000 pounds to 100,000 pounds, which equals anywhere between $89,000 to $139,000 in USD, which is way less than all ER doctors get paid.
Way less.
Way less. Way less.
Way less.
So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm assuming junior doctors get paid even less than that. So that's crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, so yes, right? If you're going to work, it's usually because you need to find a source of income. Otherwise, like he said, I agree, there would be no reason for you to actually work, and you could get fulfillment from other things, from other activities. So he quoted the book Your Money or Your Life. I forget the author, but you could get that same fulfillment that you would get from work, from volunteering, from joining any type of social club, having a hobby. So, the difference is that you're not going to get paid volunteering. You're not going to get
Right.
paid in a social club, right? So the reason that you actually work is to get paid, to get that stream of income. So if he feels
cash
like
rules everything around me.
right, exactly,
It's the truth.
cream, get the
It's the truth.
money, dollar bill, y'all.
And I like that he started off of this, because I think most people would start. So you remember I listed to make money, have fun, helping people,
Yeah.
purpose and meaning and social status. Like, that is the order in which he went through this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the order that he went through. So the next thing he talked about is having fun.
Yeah.
Right. We do it because it brings a sense of fun. Like, there's a sense of working with colleagues and, going through certain difficulties together and getting through it. There's a sense of collegiality. There's a sense of helping patients and so forth. But he talks about having fun. And he says that he admits to having more fun creating YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Working on his other businesses are way more fun than working as a junior doctor.
Yeah. I mean, he does state that he gets some enjoyment out of talking with patients and, meeting new people, but this is just more fun. He gets to be a little more creative, right? He really gets to bring himself into the work. And so, yeah, it's just a very interesting thing, right? Because Well, we'll get into this a little bit later when we go down the line about all the other things that he talked about. But a lot of people would not necessarily applaud him for the things that he's doing. But
No. He actually read some of the responses on Twitter as well as on YouTube as to why people really follow him, because he, to some extent, like as someone who is a physician, someone who's going through residency, and the ability to handle that's really difficult, right? I think there's still that awe, I think, that medical students, people in healthcare have towards physicians who are able to get through this, right? Then you throw on top of that, he's creating a YouTube channel. It's lucrative. It's popular. Then he has some other side businesses, and he's doing all of these different things and still being a doctor. Like, he's the perfect person that people would be paying attention to. Like, I need to pay attention to what this guy's doing, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's go to the next thing, because I think as we go down the line, we're going to see kind of it all comes together as to why he made that decision. So right now we talked about working to make money and then also having fun.
So let's combine that from
YouTube.
Let's combine the two things next, which are helping people and purpose and meaning. I think we can talk about that all at the same time. So for helping people, the question or the thing that he brings up is what's the impact of helping people? What is your impact individually as a medical student, a resident, or even a physician on helping people, right? There is this personal joy and satisfaction of helping people versus, are you truly helping people? Like, if we break it down to the quantification of what your impact is on a patient or in general the system, what is that? How many lives are being saved? I like that he gets into the fact that he is a physician that's working in the UK. It's a very established, mature healthcare system. The likelihood of impacting, a significant amount of lives compared to working in sub-Saharan Africa, like, you do the math, right?
Right.
And everybody, if you agree with what we're saying, or if you have any comments on what we're saying, once again, go ahead and text us at 833-230-2860. It's really quick. It's really simple. 833-230-2860. Let us know what you think. All right. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, no. So I was going to say, he breaks it down even into the numbers, right? First of all, he says that in developed countries, right, like the US, UK, that it's really the healthcare system as a whole that saves lives, right? So not necessarily individual doctors. And then he goes on to say, well, if you were to quantify it, that how many lives does each individual doctor save, then it ranges between like 7 lives and 28 lives over your entire career. And he just felt like, that for him was not necessarily something that was worth him staying in the system for. He also says, don't get me wrong, I think saving lives is extremely important. Absolutely. But as far as impact is concerned, he feels like he can actually save more lives doing YouTube. And you will get into that in a second, but he feels like he can save more lives doing YouTube than he can actually being a doctor. And the reason that he says that is because his YouTube income, or I don't know if it's all of his streams of income, but basically 10% of his income goes to some pledge that he did to help organizations around the world who are shown to have great impact in saving lives in developing countries.
Yeah, so
which
he
I
calls
thought was very interesting.
Yeah, there's a term for this. It's called effective altruism, right? And what that means is he donates 10% of his entire income to effective charities. So effective altruism, and then right below that is effective charities. These are companies that have been able to show the dollar figure that can directly save lives, right? So, there are times when you donate to a charity and it's that money, when they trace the money, is going to administration, right?
The CEO's bonus.
Or, whatever it may be. Maybe they have to pay for transportation for certain things, or maybe they have to pay for the secretary, or all these different things. And you're not sure exactly if the money is trickling down to who you thought, or who they put on when they give you a brochure, donate to this so you can save this. It's like, well, is my money really going to that? So he's working with companies. He's donating to companies that have effectively shown that your money is going to go directly to help. The biggest one is obviously water. Like water
Mm-hmm.
charities are really transparent about showing how your dollar is being used to change the health, in these
Yeah. Of
communities. So,
communities. Yeah.
no, absolutely. So he's saying that, well, if he's bringing in a significant amount of money and he's donating at least 10% to these companies, and he's maybe saving thousands of lives in
Mm-hmm.
comparison to the number that you quoted before as a junior doctor,
Right.
like ultimately it comes down to how many lives are being saved, right? When we do any study, that's what we look at, correct?
Right.
Like,
Right.
is this therapy
Number needed to
effective?
treat.
Right. Number needed to treat. So if
Mm-hmm.
he takes that number and extrapolates it,
Mm-hmm.
the evidence is there.
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting. His perspective on that, I think, was definitely one I was not prepared for, right? Like, okay. I mean, especially when he
You thought he was gonna look at it as a YouTuber. Like, yeah, so
I'm like,
I get to
yeah,
go
because
on
at
roller
first I was like,
coasters.
where's he going with this? What do you mean, you're impacting more people with YouTube? The other thing that he did say, outside of saving lives, was that he did feel that he was having other impact on people, right? Because he enjoys teaching, he enjoys educating, and as a physician, as physicians, that's what we do. We educate our patients. We do a lot of education, but he felt like, listen, I could teach just about anything. I can teach medical physiology, which he was doing at
Yeah.
Cambridge. I could teach on YouTube, and still be able to teach more people than if I were to sit down and have one-to-one conversations with patients.
And
And I
this is
thought,
just him,
okay,
guys. This is
yeah,
just
this
him.
is
He's just
just
talking
him.
about him.
Yeah,
He's not, and he makes it very clear that he's not talking about anybody else. He's just
he's
talking
not
about
trying
himself.
to
So,
convince.
right. So what you're getting into is the purpose and meaning, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he says, when we talk about the purpose of meaning, he uses a couple of techniques, one being the gravestone technique. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, when you're dead and there's a headstone on top of you, I want to be cremated. But anyway, when there's a headstone on top of you,
That's
what do you want it
news.
to say? What do you want it to say? Do you want it to say, he wants it to say, great husband, father, I don't know, educator, YouTuber, all those different things. The most important things that you can fit on a gravestone, what do you want it to say?
Yeah.
And for him, when it's time to look inwards, teaching is really important to him. So there's another technique that he uses also is he looks at what is his ideal day. That's how he describes it. I try to
Mm-hmm.
look at it as, what do I want my ideal day to be? And in that standpoint is, what am I doing during that ideal day that
Right.
makes me happy, that brings me purpose? And it has to do with his business. It has to do with teaching, particularly like you said, he likes to teach other people how to YouTube. He likes to teach other people the business of
Mm-hmm.
YouTubing, and also talk about his other entrepreneurial activities that he likes to do. So, and as well as medical education, he
Mm-hmm.
teaches
Yeah.
medical physiology at
Yeah.
Cambridge. So,
It's that particular piece for me was like, it's so obvious, yet not a lot of people really take a look at that, right? Like, what am I going to be doing every day? That is something that I think people do every day. They look at what they're doing every day, but they don't necessarily think that it's anything that they could change, right? They don't think that they could actually change
all
it.
right. What do you
So
mean?
they
Give us an example.
So, for example, right, you may go to work and then your scheduler is constantly triple booking your your schedule, right? Constantly double booking, triple booking your
Yeah,
schedule.
I know where you're going with
And
this. I like this. Yeah.
right, you go home, you complain about it, right?
Like,
You
like,
might
lady, why
even
are you triple
complain about
booking my
it,
damn schedule, man? Sheesh.
basically.
E. coli.
You might
Damn.
complain about it, to your administrator, but at the same time, you know, before you took that job, did you ever think about, well, is my schedule going to look double booked or triple booked or whatever? Because you already know that you don't like a double booked or triple booked schedule, but you probably never even thought about that before you took the job. You just know you don't like that. And so when it happens, you're just like, oh, I'll just complain about it. But deep down inside, the administrators are not going to change that. They're
Right.
going to
You start thinking
continue
like,
to.
right. And you're like, but
Exactly.
why am I triple booked? Why am I double
Right.
booked? Do I need to, like, literally, like, do I need to be triple booked? And if
Right.
so, let's change this. And
Right.
if you get pushback, then you kind of know what's up, though.
Yeah. Right.
They
Exactly.
crack
So,
the whip and you're like, oh, well, back to work. Triple.
Yeah. So I just thought it was really interesting that he had the foresight to say, you know what? I don't like what I'm doing every day at the hospital. I enjoy talking to patients and things like that, but there's so many other things that I don't like about having to go through this medical system. And guess what? I don't have to. And so I just thought that was pretty courageous, if you will.
My man is being really he's very courageous there. Obviously, he's
Mhm.
making significant amount of money, so he can afford to make this type of he can afford to make this type of video. He can afford to turn and pivot in this direction. The other thing he talks about is social status. And that's where he
Mhm.
talks about, like, there's a certain prestige, like I was mentioning earlier with me. There's a
Yeah.
certain prestige that I think is still out there for doctors. If you become a doctor, like, whoa, that's really dope. Like, that's amazing. How did you do that? Right? There's a certain nobility that goes along with it. Then you throw on top of that, like I said earlier, like, you're a doctor and you're trying to be an ER doc and you run this business and you're a YouTuber. Like, you're the person who I really need to be focusing on.
Right.
So there's that social status, and his thought process that he thought about was, well, if I walk away from this, there's a fear that he had. Will people hate me because there's the
Right.
COVID pandemic going on right now, which kind of goes back to the whole notion of how much am I really helping in the UK versus I could be teaching people during this pandemic how to make videos, how to relate to other people, how to build business a different way, because the whole landscape of making money has changed, right? So there's this concept that he also mentioned. He mentions a lot of concepts here, which is risk aversion, right? And that's where a lot of people have written back to him and saying, well, Dr. Ali, like, yeah, I get that you're walking away from medicine, but medicine is stable. There's always a need for ER physicians, right? Like, how much longer is this YouTube thing going to last?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do?
Work out?
What if YouTube don't work out? Which we know, like, come on, YouTube is not going to fail anytime soon, right? Like,
right. At
YouTube
least not in his immediate lifetime.
Right. And I really enjoy the part where he talks about, well, you also got to look at it as, yes, I can, there's the concept of misery versus what am I want to say? Misery versus uncertainty, right? Like, for him, yeah, he like, being a doctor is extremely stable. He knows exactly what's going to happen, but he's not happy doing that all the time. And then there's the uncertainty of what he does currently right now.
Yeah.
This other thing. And there's a lot of skills that he has from that, from video editing to audio editing to understanding business, to creating business, to understanding what people want, to marketing. All of those different things are transferable skills, even not to mention the skills that he has as a physician. Those are all transferable skills that he could use to make money. So,
yeah, no, I mean, that part reminded me of a conversation or several conversations that you and I have had in the past, when I've talked about,
here we go.
Yeah, the hypothetical, like, well, what if you like walked away from medicine and like did the podcast like completely full time, right? Like, what if that were to happen, right? And then you said, you said to me, I think, like, yeah, but what if the podcast doesn't take off? And I said to you, but we're really smart people, right? And what I meant by that, right, was, yeah, we're really smart people. We could bounce back. We could make something happen. Whether it's the podcast or something else or going back to medicine.
Could you see yourself podding? Could you see yourself podding all the time, 100%?
I'm podding right now. What do you mean?
No, 100% of the time. Like, you wake up every day and we're podding. Like, for example, like the Black Guy Who Tips, who puts out like 3 episodes a week, every week. Not even, actually, I think they put out more than that. They had 2,400 episodes. They put out like an episode a day.
Going episodes.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to if you guys don't listen, the Black Guy Who Tips podcast is amazing podcast. It's great, great perspective. He just signed on with a deal with Bomani Jones. He's going to be working with Bomani Jones. He's going to be writing for him. Yeah.
I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could podcast every day. I might be able to because I like to talk. So
yeah, I could definitely podcast. It'd have to be something. Would it have to be about doctors all the time? Ooh,
I could not podcast about doctors all day long. I'm gonna tell you this right now.
I don't know.
We don't even podcast about doctors all day long on Docs Outside the Box. So
no.
But what I was gonna say was that, back to what you were saying before about the transferable skills. I don't believe that people, just become doctors just because, they're so good at just becoming doctors. I think that the people who become doctors would probably be good at many other things that they would do, right? So if they didn't become doctors, they probably would be good at that too, right? And that is because they have, you know, a certain drive, they have a certain commitment, they have a certain desire to learn, to work, you know, to be a part of something. So I don't think that being a physician is so special and that you have to be touched, you know, in order to do it. I just think that we take our skills, our skill set and our talents, and we pour it into medicine. But if we did not pour it into medicine, we would pour it into something else. And so I think this is
Good point.
this is
I like
really
that.
yeah, this is
I
what
like that.
Ali
That's very cool.
Abdaal is showing us, is that, listen, I have talent and skill, and I poured it into medicine at one point in time, and now I'm pouring it into something else. And he's shown us that, you know, being a doctor isn't like this holy grail necessarily, that you really are, you yourself, you're the holy grail, and you decide what you want to do and be great at.
So, you know, let's look at it from a 30,000 foot view. So, you know, after watching the video, I had a bunch of questions in my mind. I just, you know, how I am. I just have these contrarian views, and I have these other questions in my mind. And I just thought about, I was like, well, first of all, is there a perfect reason to enter medicine? Right. Does he think that medicine is a waste of time? Right. Which kind of thinks about the journey versus the destination. Right. Just because he's not going to be practicing as a physician anymore, was it a waste of time? He talks about that in the video.
He does talk about that. Yeah.
And then there's also like, damn, like we are in the time of the side hustle, right? We are in medicine, like people are very interested in what they do clinically, but they want to do something else. And I think, to me, when I look at it as to what's driving it, what drives me is there's a sense of personal fulfillment that you have from that. And maybe what they get from clinical medicine, they want it in smaller amounts. And they may want some more personal fulfillment from the other side. So yeah, that's some of the things that I think about.
Yeah, I think about it very similarly, that I think that it is not uncommon for people to want to make something that is their own, right? So when we talk about, you know, a 4-year-old making macaroni art, for example, right? They put the glue on the paper, they throw the macaroni on, and then they come home, Mommy, look, I made this, you know, I made this. And so there's this pride.
And then what do you say as a
in
parent?
that.
Like, what is this, E. coli? Get this.
So you say, oh, that's so good, baby. Thank you so much.
You lining underneath there, you know, like, what the hell are they making my kid do, man?
But yeah, I think, you know, I think that we all have, or it is not uncommon for all of us to want to make our own macaroni art, right? And so when you build something, from your own mind, from your own
Renee's dropping major keys up in this. What? Major key alert. Uh-oh.
When you build something from your own mind, from your own creativity, I think that it really brings you to another level. It really brings you to another level.
But also, let's be honest. Like, I think the system, how medicine has a tendency to kind of choke that making a macaroni artwork out, right? No. There's no space for that, right? There's really no time for that.
Well, yes and no, right? Because let's face it, everybody is not about the side hustle, right? And we know this, right? So we can't say, well, if you're not side hustling, then you can't be a creative, or you can't, you know, build something for yourself, or you can't build something from your own creativity in your own imagination. So when we look at academic medicine, especially, a lot of academics, they are employed by an institution, but they might build something within an institution that the institution never had before, right? So they, you know, might lead that program. They might build a trauma center. They might build a stroke center, a cardiac program. So we can't necessarily say that, you know, it's all about just the side hustle and what you can just build outside of medicine or outside of what you do every day.
Well, I'm just saying there's a lot of people who are considering doing side hustles, and you can't ignore that. I agree with you. There's a lot of people who are in medicine right now who are extremely happy. Like you said, they look at their side hustle almost like what they're doing, like them building whatever department, putting all of their hard work, that's their hustle. That's what they want to do. And that is extremely gratifying to them. But I also think that there's a significant amount of people who don't get a chance to really have a voice be said for, I enjoy what I do when I'm here in the hospital, but there's some other things that I want to do. And oftentimes they're presented with, well, you better choose one, the red pill or the blue pill, right? I'm talking about corny ass Matrix 4 things, right?
Here we go again.
Guys, I didn't like Matrix 4, right? So you choose the red pill or the blue pill, and that's it, right? So I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that medicine has an issue on its hand where what we're taught in the environment that we are training doesn't necessarily equate with how we are working as attendings. And I think that we can do a better job. I think the medicine can do a better job with letting us be a little bit more individualized, so to speak. But is it really medicine's? This other thing is like, is it really medicine's fault? Like, this is just how medicine is right now, right? So,
yeah, I don't know where to start in terms of that problem. But I just know that people have a desire to feel like they have contributed something, and whether they build it on their own, on their kind of with their own resources and things like that, or they build it within the confines of an institution, they want that fulfillment of being able to have built something, to have contributed something.
Well, build something that is on your own. So, hey, listen, guys, this was a really good conversation. Make sure you text us at 833-230-2860. Once again, text us at 833-230-2860. And as soon as you text us, it comes directly to us and we'll know what you think. Let us know what you think about this conversation. This was a really, really interesting convo. I'd like to do more of these like deep dives on how the psychology of yourself, psychology of doctors in general, and people who are type A personalities and what they do now that, you can make so much money doing something completely different. It's really interesting. So look, I think we beat that dead horse. What did I get it right this time?
No.
We beat that horse dead.
No.
How do you say it? What is it?
What? We beat.
You know exactly what we beat. Anyway, it's time to move on, guys. Let's move on to the sign out. Let's talk about really the quick and easy tips that we want people to pick up before we get out of this episode. So I was going to drop some things, but obviously I got to give you time because apparently you had an issue with my last episode. Everybody, folks, my last episode, I was talking about the major lesson that I learned in 2021 and what I'm taking and how that's going to help me succeed in 2022. And my own co-host, my own wife did not like my show. So what say you, Dr. Renee? What's the beef?
First of all, I didn't say I didn't like your show. I don't know why you saying that. First of all, your show was fine. Okay. And I like the fact that you had, a way to kind of make your way through your to your goals. You talked about your systems and things like that. So I think that was fine.
Shout out to my systems. It's still working.
Well, very good.
7 days later, after putting out the episode, the systems are still working, y'all. Hell yes.
7 whole days.
7 whole days. Not a word from you. Y'all never heard me sing on the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
Keep it quick. Keep it quick.
But where I took issue was, first of all, you talked about being a better father and being a better all these things, but you never talked about being a better husband. What's up with that?
Duh. Like there needs to be no improvement in me being a better husband. That's the whole point. So I need to build the habit, between me and you, our interactions. Like I've already mastered being an amazing husband. Don't you know? Don't you see that already? Come on. Right. Yeah, I don't. I've been a father less than I've been a damn husband. Right. So I need to work on becoming a better father. So that's the next thing.
So because you spent more time being a husband than you have been being a father, you need to master being a father, but you don't need to master being a husband?
Well, I've already mastered that already.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Who told you that? Who else you married to?
Hey, everybody, send us a text at 1-833. Hey, Alfred, put this up there. 1-833-230-2860. Am I a good husband or not? Like, why the hell does other people know if you're a good husband or not? But listen, no, for real. But like that, look, I think overall, the the improvement in me being a good husband will come from those other habits also. Me waking up and spending more time doing the things that I want to do and being very productive so that when I'm done, I'm spending more time with you as opposed to not only with the kids and looking at my phone, but I'm also, there are times when me and you are talking and I'm like, all right, hurry up, hurry up. I'm looking at this phone. I got to do this. I got to do Y. I got to do X. I got to do Y. So I get it. I get what you're saying. But I
Good
just
save.
feel
Good
like,
save.
I just feel that overall those habits are making me a better person, which will also make me a better husband. So everybody, the results are so far I'm doing good. Like I'm waking up at 5 consistently. Now this week I'm on night shifts. So because I wake up because I'm already up, I work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. What I do is I just make sure at 5 a.m. I do some type of video journaling or I do some type of reflection or meditation. And even though I'm busy, I will always take the time to do it. And it's been working. And the other thing is being an athlete. That was the other identity I wanted to take on. So far, I finished a whole week of T25 and it's been going okay. So we're going on to week 2 and go from there.
Awesome.
Boom.
Awesome.
So the next thing I want to sign out is I want to give a quick shout out to my car rental, Toyota Camry. Yo, listen. So I started here about a week ago. When I left New Jersey and then I crossed the border, it started snowing. And yeah, by the time I got onto 80, like real 80, like Interstate 80, 70 miles per hour, 80, I couldn't tell the difference between the regular road and the rumble strips. You remember when you called me and you heard that rum, 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 rum.
I was
You're
like, is
a
that
truck
a
passing?
truck?
And I was like, yeah, I can't. That's the rumble strips. But what I didn't tell you is that I literally could not tell when the road ends or when the road, like when the part where you're supposed to drive on and where the rumble strips begin. So I made it though. There was a couple of trucks that I saw that were on the side that I was like, they must have spun out or they lost control.
They weren't Toyota Camrys.
And I just kept going. So shout out to Toyota Camry, man. Damn, man. They kept it going.
Toyota Camry done made it through the storm.
Yo, definitely the car that your father would drive, right? But I guess I'm at that.
That's actually the car my father does have.
Right? He has that car. And I'm like, damn, that shit is reliable. E. coli, right? And it's reliable and it got me through the snow. But there were a bunch of times where the roads, like they were not plowed yet. And we're talking about it had to be at least 2 to 3 inches on the road, which is actually, if you think about it, if you have 2 to 3 inches on the highway and you're going, like you have to go only like 20, 30 miles per hour. So what was a 5-hour trip ended up being a little bit longer, but shout out to Toyota Camry for that. Anything you want to sign out, Dr. Renee, before we end this podcast?
So I was going to sign one thing out, but I think I'm switching my sign out. So the other day you put me on to a new show called Grand Crew.
Grand Crew. Hey,
Grand Crew.
Grand Crew. That's not the theme song, but that's what it should be. Grand Crew. Yeah, on NBC, Grand Crew. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So
it's okay.
I watched
it's okay,
it.
actually. It's not pretty good.
I watched it. And they have 5 episodes out already. So I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't know about this. And I watched the second episode and I was like, this is a little better, but I really just don't know about this. Like, and I literally stopped watching it for a couple of hours. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it another chance. And then the third episode, they got me. I was like, okay, y'all funny now. So I watched the 3rd, 4th, and 5th episode. And I got to say, I was laughing.
Yeah, I was laughing. It's good. I like it. You put me on. You're like, oh, this is just like Friends. I never watched Friends. I didn't watch Friends at all. So when you said it's like Friends, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like these are just friends.
Exactly like
these
Friends.
Are just friends. Tell us quickly why you think it's almost like Friends, because this is the sign of
Well, because the characters pretty much are set up almost exactly like Friends, right? So each of the characters in Friends have some sort of relational or individual characteristic that is like Friends. So, you have your Ross and Monica, who are brother and sister. So you have Noah and his sister on the show. And then you have Joey and Chandler, who are roommates. And so you have Sherman and Anthony, who are roommates. You have Rachel on Friends. Yeah, you have Rachel on Friends, who is Monica's friend and the waitress. And then you have the young lady who works at the bar, who is the friend of the sister. And then the only thing is that they have 2 women and 4 men, whereas Friends had 3 women, three men. But the fourth man in Grand Crew is somewhat like Phoebe in that he, you know, doesn't have any problems expressing his feelings. He kind of lives a little bit more of a non-traditional life, in that he is a house husband, and his wife works. And Phoebe, we know, had a very non-traditional life, not like that, but very non-traditional and being homeless and doing all these kinds of things. But they actually, I think anyway, and I wish the director would tell me this, that they gave a nod to Friends in the first episode, because Sherman in the first episode, in the first scene, is wearing a hat that says Squad, and it's written in the Friends font. And that's when I was like, yeah, I think this is like a nod to, hey, Friends, but it's done very I Met Your Mother like, you know, it's done very like Community. It's very fast paced and kind of sarcastic and funny. And so, yeah.
I didn't watch Friends, so I don't know anything about that. So thumbs up or thumbs down? What do you think?
I'm gonna give it a sideways thumb, because I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna give it this. Because I'm not
we'll
sure.
give it a sideways hustle. All right, y'all. Make sure y'all check out Grand Crew. I think it's an okay show. It's on NBC or the Peacock. It's streaming. Shout out to the Camry, as well as Renee had an issue with my last episode, but you know, I dug myself out of that hole. But listen, everyone, we appreciate everything that you do. We appreciate your time. Thank you for listening to Docs Outside the Box. Make sure you let us know what you think. Text us at 1-833-230-2860. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.